straight to it. My bullets fly just like a weapon on the lake shooting. The west side where I'm from and where the gang moving. This motherfucker wanna test me, but he's straight stupid. Bitch, I like to get it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the fifth Pirate101 build guide video for all the new content. These builds are intended to help you get through some of the new content: Sinbad Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Tartarus, Crocotopia, things like that. This also kind of works as like a 2025 guide. I've made Musketeer, Buccaneer, Witch Doctor, and the last class Swashbuckler. I've already made those already for what I think are the best builds, or the builds I use in my solo gameplay. And then now we are finally onto Privateer after I've fully maxed this one out. This is Cheryl Noble, and here's a little sneak peek into some of the stats already. But it's a very fun build, and here's a little spoiler. I'm working on trying to get a better pet. Lightstorm's pretty good, but yeah, once we get to the pets, you'll understand why I'm trying to get a better one. But let's just get right into it. Let's start off with the hats. Now, I will say this is probably my most non-mainstream build, as in the gear that I'm using is probably not the most mainstream. So I will, of course, be offering the best alternatives that I think you can use. And you can also just pick and choose from what you have or want to farm. So starting with the hat, I think this is a pretty non-negotiable one. I think you should have this because I think it's just the best. And that is the Dutchman's inflated hat that comes from the Obsidian Key boss in Monquista. He drops a ton of different, I think it's like 6 variations of the Dutchman's hat. This one is the best one in my opinion, and it gives Tempest, which is the torpedo spell that Musketeer gets that knocks opponents when they walk into it, like knocks them over square, can stop their movement. So I think that is really, really good. Alternatives, I think, you know, probably the least best one is one of the Cane hats, which gives like boon and hold the line, or the will or the base will and hold the line. And then also a good alternative is Zeus's Underworld hat, which gives a ton of good stats and a ton of health. I wouldn't really recommend Kane's mask. The castle is pretty interesting. I'm not sure what buffs it gives to the ally that you use it with, but I would say skip out on Kane's mask. Moving on to the outfit, I'm using the Imperial Robes of Fu Manchu, which gives the 9 summons. And this is mostly because I don't have a second copy of Obsidian's Blood Jacket. But if you do have Blood Jacket, I would really recommend you use that. Alternatively, you could use something like Zeus's Underworld Garb, which again gives some pretty good stats. But the spell, I don't think the Zeus spells are that good. Dealing half your health to get some buffs, I don't think is that good. Except for maybe like Hercules, or like a companion doing it. Otherwise, I think you probably only, you really only want to use Zeus or Obsidian Blood or regular blood or Imperial Robes of Fu Manchu. Once I get a second copy of Blood Jacket, I'll probably swap to it on this character, but that won't be for a while probably. Moving on to the boots. There's only 3 good boots that I think you should be using, and the first one's obviously Tide Boots, which I don't have, but Tide Boots frees your opponents for 1 turn. It's an incredibly good spell. You always want to get it first turn. But if you don't have that, I'd recommend either the Zeus Boots, which give good stats and a rank of Witch Hunter, or the Underworld Warlord Boots that give similar stats, but a team heal, an extra team heal that's pretty good. I think these are really the only ones you'd want to use. I wouldn't recommend any other boots to use. Now moving on to the weapons, this is where the build kind of goes in 3 separate ways. You could either do the Repel 5 build, which is what I use. You can do just a regular build that doesn't have a special like epic rank, or you can do the Readied Spell 5 build. Now, Readied Spell 5 is not a build I'm doing on this character because I don't want to spend money on the bundle. But if you did buy the bundle that has the Conqueror's outfit, you would want to use the Conqueror's outfit with the Imperial Robes of Fu Manchu. You would want 2 ranks of Readied Spell from the Secret Trainer, and you'd want a pet that gives Readied Spell. And then, so that's how many ranks is that? Conqueror's outfit is 1, 2 ranks. The pet has a rank, and then the totem has a rank if you are using the Sinbad's one. I think that's the only way you can do it, but obviously I don't want to do it. I already have a Readied Spell 5 build on my Witch Doctor that's free to play friendly. You should check that out, by the way. So I am doing just the simple Repel 5 and like Repost 2 build, which uses Captain Blood's Obsidian Hook. There's also another one in the game. I believe it comes from the new, not new, but it comes from the Tartarus guy. I don't think it would be in here. I don't think I unlocked it. But yeah, the I think it's that boss where you walk into Tartarus and like there's a big arena. He's like an eagle. He's like a shadow eagle guy. I think he drops a new version of a Repel Borders weapon, so you can also use that as well. And then the other weapon that I think is interesting if you want to do just like a regular support build is the Smashy Staffy Mojo Stick that gives the melee invulnerability for 1 turn. I think this is a really cool weapon. It's kind of a revamp of the Friar Sand weapon that gives vulnerability for 1 turn. I think this is just a really cool weapon. But moving on to the readied spell builds, or like the more Mojo Staffy builds, you want to use a 6-range weapon. There's only a few in the game. There's like Fool's Wand, the Magic Wand, and I think there's one other one. So you'd probably want to use that if you're going to go with pure Staffy. If you want to go with a shooty Staffy build, then I would probably recommend the Orb of Nefarious Death, which comes from the pack. Ashes of the Armada booster pack. It gives a rank of double tap, so I'd recommend those if you want to do the more Staffy side, but I'm not doing that for this. If you want some inspiration, check out my Witch Doctor build once again. Moving on to the eye patch, I think there's only 3 good options here, and that is the Sinbad's Heroic Stripes, which I think is the best one. It gives the Valor's Rampart, which is a team absorb, which is really, really good for support, because this extends to not only the people in your adjacent square, but everyone on the ally side. If you don't have this, I understand. I think the cheapest option is just to get a Smuggler's Cowl, which gives a rank of Mojo Mastery to really buff up your AoEs and your heals and your support stuff. But if you want something a little more unique, I would say go with the Mojo Storm eye patch. Why let Witch Doctors have all the fun with Mojo Storm? Mojo Storm does a ton of damage, and you can get on it too. If you want to use another copy of Big Guns, you can also get the patch of Forceful Smiting, but I don't think this is really necessary. You get enough Big Guns copies as it is, and I think there's also just better spells, even though this does have infinite range. Now, moving on to the Totem, I think if you're doing the Repel 5 build, the only one you can use is Manticore Sting. But if you're going to be doing a different type of build, like a regular build, you could use something like the Radiant Crystal Bauble or whatever the Mu Manchu level 65 is. But if you're doing a Staffy build, I would probably suggest the Amit's Totem, which gives a really good minion, this little crocodile guy, and then also a Jobu's Ruse rank as well. I think those are really it. Those are the really only good ones that I would recommend you use, unless there's what I'm forgetting about. Moving on to the charms, I'm just using a simple Mu Manchu level 65. You can use level 55, you can use level 60, and you'll be fine. You could also use something like the Cane charms. I have one that's First Mate's Boon increased base will. This might be a hot take, but I really, really love First Mate's Boon. I wish they didn't nerf it, because when I was like just getting it to using First Mate's Boon was around the time they nerfed it, and I got really sad. But yeah, I hope First Mate's Boon comes back in a big way, because I think it is such a cool spell to use. The other good alternative that I would suggest is just simple stats, Obsidian Brass Medallion. I have the one that's focused on will. You could also use the one that's focused on strength to try and mitigate some crits from Buccaneer enemies. It also gives some good accuracy as well. Moving on to the rings, pretty much the final piece of the puzzle, except for the pet. I'm using a Sapphire ring from the Aztegosaur level 5 enemy. This one gives a Mighty Charge and a Mojo Mastery. I think the best one would probably be a Ruse one, but I don't have a Ruse Mojo Mastery one. But I like the Mighty Charge as well, because it gives that two times movement hit. So like if I'm fighting like Obsidian Scratch or something, I need to get over to the enemy side, I can use it. It's really niche. This is kind of a slot where you can put in anything you have that's just really good. You don't really have to farm for anything specific. But I'm using Mojo Mastery because I'm not using a Mojo Mastery here. So this gives me a rank of Mojo Mastery and buffs up my Mojo spells quite a bit. Again, you can use something simple like the Mu Manchu ring. A copy of Big Guns and Valors and some health is really good. Or you can use, again, the Cane ring, which gives increased base will, First Mate's Boon, and health. If there is one that has increased base will and hold the line, I would say it's probably the best, because again, First Mate's Boon is not that good right now. Now, moving on to the pet. Ideally, the pet would be something like Repel and some other stats. And so this is my current one, which I think is decent enough to use, but I am trying to make a better one. It has a brutal charge, which I think is really good, and it has 2 ranks of Tide, Repel, and Blade Storm. So yeah, I'm not using Relent 2 in this build because I simply don't have a pet that has Relentless and Repel. But I was trying to make some better ones. This one, if it gets like Relent and Repel, be pretty good with the Elusive. This one has Relentless and Tide, so if it gets something like Blade or Repel, it'd be just a really good standard melee pet. This one failed at 70 with Death Throws, but it was looking pretty good before. This one also failed at 70. It had Blade and Second Chance, and then it got Burst and then the Sneaky, and I was not happy with that. This one also failed because it got 3 different weapon types, and then this is what I'm working on right now that you saw earlier that just got Blade Storm. So maybe we'll get something good at that. I might post an update in the comments. But what is my ideal pet for a Repel 5 Privateer build? Let me think about it. Honestly, I think this pet is as close as I can get. I think swapping out a Tide for Relentless and then maybe swapping the other Tide for Elusive could be pretty good. I think the spells that I have with Mutineer's Grasp, Brutal Charge, and Cloud Spirit are decent enough. Cloud Spirit to buff agility based. Like if I'm in like if I'm doing like a squad of 4 or something and there's like 3 musketeers, that was unintentional. If there was like 3 agility based classes, that I could use Cloud Spirit as well to buff in like the end game, you know, something like that would be nice. The Brutal Charge again I think is nice for the same reason as the Mighty Charge. So actually, because I have Brutal Charge on this pet, I might swap to just a different ring that has Mojo Mastery. But yeah, let's move on to the power setup that I have. Oh, and also if you're using a Staffy based build for this, I'd recommend Ready Spell, like Mojo Echo, Burst Fire, Double Tap, those kinds of powers that you'd see on like a Witch Doctor. One sleeper hit in the hat department is the Zeal hat. If you want 2 copies of Zeal, which I think is pretty good. That comes from the key bosses that are in Avery's court that, you know, they rotate every once in a while. You could, if you have that, you could also use that for sure. But let's move on to the power setup. I have Zeal in the first spot. If you have 2 Zeals, you'd probably want to put like a Zeal here and like a Zeal here in the 4th spot or something. I have Tempest with Torpedoes in the 2nd spot, and then my Team Absorb in the 3rd spot. If I had Captain Blood's Flames, I'd probably put Blood Flames in the 3rd spot, and then Rampart would be 4th, and then all this stuff would just shift down 1. And then we have just some basic support stuff. Rallying Call isn't really necessary up here, so I'm gonna move that actually down here. And then I have my big guns and my artillery, and then I have my Terracotta Warriors, and then I just have some survivability, some heals, and then, you know, as we get to the 2nd page, it's kind of just all like worthless stuff. But yeah, so that is my power setup. Let's move on to my talent. Let's see all the talents that I get with this build. So I have Naturally Spooky, which is being raised by Crocotopia in the beginning of the game. And then I have Staffy 2, Stabby 2, Smashy 2. And so that's because Smashy 2 is for Relentless 1. Staffy 2 is so I can get Spooky 2 from the Witch Doctor trainer, and Stabby 2 is for Fast 2. So that's where this Spooky 2 and Fast 2 comes in. Here's my Relentless 1 rank, which I got using the Smashy Weapons 2. This is from the Secret Trainer. These are just free. This might come from the Swashbuckler trainer while getting Fast 2, I'm not sure. Tough 3, Slashy 3 is just from the Privateer trainer. Elusive 3 is from the Privateer trainer. And then I have Witch Hunter 2, which is kind of interesting. Witch Hunter 1 is from the Witch Doctor trainer, which you can also get with Staffy Weapons 2. And then I have another one from my Zeus Boots. This agility is just from Zeus Boots. The Mojo Mastery I get from my ring, or you could get it from your eye patch, the Smuggler's Mask. I have Blade Storm 1 from my pet. I could get another one with like a weapon, but obviously I'm not doing that. And then I have Repost 1 with my hook. You can also get Repost from your pet for Repost 2. And then here's the bread and butter, Repel 5. This will knock enemies back once you do it. 2 ranks are from the Privateer trainer, 1 rank from my weapon, 1 rank from my pet, and then 1 rank from my totem, the Manticore Sting. And then I've tied 2 for some extra accuracy and weapon power once I'm below 50% health. And yeah, I mean that's the talents, the powers, the gear. Let's look at the character stats just to, you know, get an idea. Even though it's pretty hard to tell from what this stuff is, but we've got 87 will, 72 strength, 44 agility, and it's fine. You're probably gonna get crit by enemies sometimes, but not too often. Weapon power 301, it's sizable. 306 for the spell power is really, really good. 2 ranks of spooky, naturally spooky, mojo mastery, and then my boots. Accuracy, base, dodge, base, armor, base, magic resist, base. The health, pretty high. 3,300 is not nothing to scoff at. An extra 500 health from gear, and the tough is pretty good. So yeah, those are the stats, and I guess we could talk a little bit about my companion setup. I don't remember if I did this in the previous episodes or of this series of the saga, but let's just do it now. So Old Scratch first spot, it makes sense. He has the mojo buffs. You really don't want anyone else. Second, I have Gracie. She has not only the hold the line, but she has this golem with hold the line, and then also her mine that does a ton of damage. And you know, she's not too bad in a fight either with her epic strike and blade storm for 2 guaranteed hits. Third, I have Emmett as the most utility. He's got these reduced movement spells, which are really, really good to help you keep buffing. And then also his minus 50% weapon power attack is really, really good against high damage output enemies. And his epic setup, I just use Overwatch 3, double tap 2, true grit 1, and then return fire 1 is what he comes with. And then he has a team heal as well. I think this is kind of just the standard lineup that you'd want to go. Maybe there's like a pack companion or 2 that you'd want to use that have like the gunnery spell. I think it's like a Aztecosaur one. If you want to do like a melee privateer build, I'd probably suggest March, Catbeard, and Lucky Jack if you want to do like all melees. But the rest, I mean, they're fine until, you know, some of these might get reworks and get a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, that's the build. That's Privateer. It's probably one of my favorite classes. I would say Buccaneer's my favorite class, but Privateer's a whole lot of fun for me to use. And I will see you guys in the Reading All the Dialogue series for Season 2, where I go through all the new content, Sinbad Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Tartarus, Krokotopia, all solo. So, goodbye.